Sakti returned to the military hospital the next weekend. She would meet with the doctor overseeing Iskir's treatment with the attacker's weapon in her possession. The guards were already notified about the hatchet being brought in under the guise of research purposes by someone in the Ministry of Defense. Exactly who it was they wouldn't say, but it must have been that Sarah was telling the truth after all. Sakti didn't dwell on it too much and was just glad that it didn't cause any problems. Doctor: What? You got a hold of the weapon? Sakti: Yes, but it's probably better if we keep it quiet. Doctor: Well, I don't know what you did to make the Ministry of Defense hand it over, but I can't help but be a little concerned. You are making my job easier, but please be careful. Most government types don't like their toes being stepped on. This could cause a stir if you did something of questionable legality to get a hold of it. Sakti: I'll be careful, Doctor. But don't worry, I didn't do anything bad. Well, I didn't do anything bad. I hope Sarah was telling the truth when she said she acquired it through legitimate means. For the time being, helping Iskir is my #1 priority. If there are any consequences, I'll deal with them later. Sakti and the doctor returned to the hospital room where Iskir was being treated. The doctor went to the computer and used it to control research equipment attached to the ceiling. 2 massive arms lowered themselves down by the computer. Doctor: Now, place the hatchet between those 2 arms there. It's a scanning device, and it will hopefully be able to tell us what this weapon is all about. Sakti removed the hatchet from its sheath with extreme caution. She remembered the officer had said everyone who touched the blade had died. She couldn't get that out of her mind, and couldn't even hold the handle without shaking. Sakti put the hatchet in the scanning device. The scanning device projected an energy field around the weapon and suspended it in the air. The scanner's arms whirled around the weapon and sent data to the computer. Information poured into the computer, and the doctor could not look away for a moment. Doctor: Amazing! Sakti: What is it? Doctor: These energy readings are off the charts. The computer can't even fully analyze this weapon's capabilities. Based on the computer's estimated dating, this hatchet is likely a magical weapon forged during the First War that happened over 1,000 years ago. As was already apparent, this is no mere weapon. Based on its unique and immense magical energy signature, I theorize it must be a construct of the fairy smiths from some distant planet. Sakti: An alien weapon? Doctor: Humph. That is a rather pedestrian way of putting it, but yes, I suppose you could say that. The fairy smiths were known for making magical weapons of incredible power. The weapons they forged could harness the very essence of the universe itself: magic. This weapon seems to operate somewhat like other magical constructs, but is ultimately the antithesis to what would normally be considered a magic weapon. That is, it seems to destroy magic rather than utilize it. Sakti: I don't really understand. What does that have to do with Iskir and his condition? Doctor: Well, I suppose that's to be expected. You are a human after all. Humans are the least in tune with magic of all reasoning beings, so magical concepts are difficult for them to comprehend. Think of it like this. Your friend, he is an Arenka, yes? The Arenka are beings who are said to be sustained entirely by the eternal magic energy that flows throughout the universe. They do not need to eat, drink, or sleep whatsoever. They say you could lop their head off, and their body would repair itself after a time. Indeed, it was said as surely as magic continues to exist in the universe, the Arenka will theoretically live forever. That is why they were thought to be immortal beings, like gods. That is why your friend's circumstance is so unusual. This weapon was likely made specifically to destroy magic and consequentially kill eternal beings. Magic energy is the power that allows all life to exist. Without it, I suppose even so-called eternal beings would cease to exist. That is why magic energy is also sometimes called the energy of life. Sakti, the energy of life. That's something the officer we spoke to said. He said the university researchers theorized that the weapon was intended to sever the connection between mortals and the energy of life. So that means it separates mortals from magic? Doctor, yes, that is a sensible conclusion. That explains why your friend is deteriorating. If this weapon somehow disconnected him from the flow of magic, it is only natural he would deteriorate and be unable to regenerate as Aranka normally do. Sakti, so what do we do? How do we reverse the effects? Doctor, nothing comes to mind immediately. I'm not intimately familiar with the art of magic myself, and I don't know any practicing magi to refer you to. If anyone would know anything about it at all, it would be your friend. He is a magical being after all. Didn't you mention your friend worked at the university? Sakti, yeah, but I don't know the details. He never really talked about his work. Doctor, perhaps you could ask his colleagues. There must be at least a few magi who study there. The police may have already spoken to them, but you might find someone who might be able to lend you some more assistance regardless. Sakti, okay, I will. Thank you, Doctor. The scanner powered down and lowered the hatchet. As Sakti turned to leave, the doctor stopped her. Doctor, miss, it would probably be better if you took the hatchet with you. Sakti, it would? Doctor, I believe so. If you don't want it getting out that you have the weapon, it would probably not be a good idea to keep it here. Sakti, oh, I guess you're right. Doctor, one more thing. Something about that weapon doesn't sit right with me. I said it is likely a weapon that destroys magic. That is the only sensible conclusion, but it's still purely theoretical. A weapon that destroys magic, the very foundation of the universe, isn't something that should even be possible. It is something that goes against the laws of the natural world. We still don't really know anything about it, where it came from, how it was made, or for what purpose it was made. So be careful, okay? It is not something to be taken lightly, considering it incapacitated a so-called immortal being. Sakti, I know, I'll be careful, Doctor. Sakti took the hatchet, concealed it in her bag, and left the military hospital. Sakti drove back to Jealousy and returned home. The next day, Sakti called ahead to the university where Xzaviaire had been teaching before the incident and asked them if it would be alright if she came by. They seemed surprised to hear from her, but were more than willing to help her out in any way they could. Sakti then drove downtown to the university. The university was the only university on Frontier. That being the case, one would think it'd be quite busy, but that wasn't so. Frontier wasn't exactly a bastion of enlightened thinkers. It was a planet only really known for being the homeworld of a faction of humans who broke away from the main human collective government a few hundred years back. It really was a rather sorry planet, all things considered. There weren't even any good paying jobs to be had, really. With luck and the right connections, one could get a cushy government job. People smart enough for university, who also had enough money, were usually smart enough to get off Frontier as soon as they could. Sakti met one of the professors by the entrance of the main building. He was a non-human, an Avani. The Avani were fair and graceful beings said to live for about 1,000 years. When it came to magic, they were said to be both knowledgeable and powerful. Professor, Miss Wells, I presume. Sakti. Yes, but please call me Sakti. Professor. Of course, Sakti. The president of the university told us you'd be coming by shortly, and help you in any way we could. I am a magus of the School of Magic Arts. It is quite a small department, but many of us have known Lord Xzaviaire for decades. The president said you needed help with a personal matter, and that you wanted to see Lord Xzaviere's workspace, correct? Allow me to take you to Lord Xzaviere's office, and we can talk on the way. Please, follow me. The professor led Sakti through the university. Classes apparently had just ended, and the university was basically empty. A few students taking summer classes meandered around, but not enough to make the place feel busy or even used. It was strange seeing such a massive, elaborate architecture suffer from disuse. It was almost like walking around an abandoned ruin from ages long past. Professor, to be honest, we were quite surprised when the president of the university told us you called. We didn't think Lord Xzaviaire had any close friends. He never really talked about his personal life. While he was cordial with the faculty here, I wouldn't say he was particularly close to anyone. When we had heard about what happened to him, we were unsure what to do with his things, so we just left his office undisturbed. The president was aware Lord Xzaviaire had a human friend who was a young lady, but he didn't know anything about you, really. Had we known your contact information, we would have given you a call to sort out his personal belongings. Sakti gave a quick rundown of what she wanted to know as they walked. Namely, she wanted to know more about weapons capable of destroying magic. She left out that she had such a weapon on hand, though. She felt it was better to keep her possession of such a weapon a secret. Professor, it is shameful to admit this, but I'm not sure anyone here would really be able to help you with what you are looking for. You said you were looking for information regarding weapons capable of destroying magic? Unfortunately, there isn't much information to be given. Research into such things is almost purely theoretical at this time. From what you've told me, you seem to have about as much of a basic understanding of how such things work as we do. And even if we did have such information, it is highly unlikely we will be allowed to speak to you openly about such a sensitive area of study. Legally. You understand, right? Sakti. Yes, I understand. Sakti. That's right. The officer mentioned something about keeping details about this investigation secret. The Ministry of Defense is probably keeping a close watch on the university researchers who helped them out with the hatchet. Professor, I believe Lord Xzaviire was looking into the subject of anti-magic weapons before he was attacked. We don't really know the details of what he was researching, though. Sakti, he didn't share his research with anyone else? Professor, no. Lord Xzaviire didn't teach magic. He taught history and would occasionally help us out with our research. It was a shame because he was a far superior magus compared to anyone else here. He always said his knowledge of magic wasn't something that needed to be passed down to humans, or something to that effect. Still, he often conducted his own research in his spare time. It was work he was rather intent on keeping to himself until his findings were complete. They reached an office door and stopped in front of it. The professor unlocked the door. Professor, well, this is Lord Xzaviere's office. Feel free to look through his things and take anything you would like. Sakti, really? Is that okay? Professor, of course. Everything inside belongs to Lord Xzaviire, and, well, I'm sure he would rather you have it than it just sit and collect dust. While we would never dare to invade his personal space and read his research with notes without his permission, I believe it is alright for someone he trusted enough to call his friend to do so. Perhaps you will find something in them that will help you. Take as long as you need. If you need anything, I'll be in my office. It's down that way at the end of the hall. Sakti. Okay, thank you. Sakti placed her hand upon the door's handle and hesitated. She had never seen Iskir's workspace, his office, before. She had never even been to the university. It was a side of him she had never known, and never really cared to know. Now she would possibly never know. A flood of regret washed over her. When those feelings settled in her soul, she finally allowed herself to enter.